Some of the early reviewers for The Bad Batch Season 3's first 8 episodes mentioned the numerous connections to the wider Star Wars universe, including The Mandalorian. And while we've seen that to some extent in the first 3 episodes, with Project Necromancer and what the Imperial Remnant will eventually work on, some other theories have floated round that we might see the likes of Grogu, Dr. Pershing, and possibly a handful of other characters as well, making their way into the show. But there is one secret Mandalorian connection that Season 2 has already made that might resurface again in the 3rd. This involves a mysterious character from The Mandalorian Season 1, the Client. Werner Herzog made a rare and phenomenal cameo in the first season as an old Imperial loyalist and former officer who desperately wanted Grogu's blood. He sent multiple bounty hunters to find the 50-year-old asset. A formidable and creepy character with very little backstory. My running theory until this point has been the reason he knows about Grogu is that once upon a time, the child with a high M count was taken from Kelleran Beck and was temporarily in the possession of the Empire during its rise. This could have been on Mount Tantiss, and then somehow Grogu got away. If this proves to be true, it means the Client was someone close to the Advanced Science Division, or was high up enough in the Empire to get a sense of what Hemlock was doing, and some of Palpatine's more secretive projects. This was not something widely known, and even the Emperor himself tells Hemlock in Shadows of Tantiss that some within their own ranks would disapprove of the methodology, the ethics, of what's going on Wayland, if the information ever got out. So whether or not the Client makes an appearance is anyone's guess, but some fans are adamant he already has in Season 2. We were introduced, on Eriadu, on Raven's Peak, to a certain Lieutenant Mela. He was someone trusted by Tarkin, worked for his initiative in the security department, and so therefore he had a high security clearance. He appeared in one episode as a hologram, and then in episode 15 The Summit, in the flesh. And given his accent, demeanour, attitude, it was kind of an easy connection for fans to make, or at least speculate about. They wanted us to have that in the back of our minds, and I wonder if Season 3 is going to make that larger connection. There might be some evidence they're going to, and I'll come onto this in just a moment. But if this character was the Client, then over time he became more aware of Tarkin's inner circle of Imperial leaders and their plans, not just in regards to Project Necromancer under Hemlock, but the Death Star, Project Stardust, and others that were priorities for the Emperor. Now the reason I think there's a good chance he's going to show up again in the 3rd season is because we know Tarkin is coming up in one of the episodes. He's been in the first 2 seasons, but Stephen Stanton a couple of days ago teased he did do some vocal work for Season 3, so this might include another meeting at the summit, more prominence from Mela, and maybe some more concrete evidence that he too is fascinated by cloning and has some kind of larger connection to the character of the Client. It's all speculation, but hopefully we can deduce something more concrete. Some very exciting stuff to come. And so staying on the subject of The Bad Batch, my dear friends, I've come across a few fan rankings for each individual member over the last few days, and I thought it might be a good idea to give you my own reflections and rankings for each individual character. I've always said, each individual clone, not just from The Bad Batch but also the Clone Wars series and Star Wars Rebels, provides a unique perspective, a whole world of soul, wit, wisdom, depth, and as we get into the darkest season of The Bad Batch, the final season, that is more true now than ever before. So let's go through these. So just to get the honourable mentions out the way, the 2 droids who to my mind are honorary members, AZ, who remained with the team throughout the bulk of the 2nd season and is expected to return at some point in Season 3, was briefly a waiter for Sid. He is very welcome comic relief in an otherwise very serious show. And then of course the 2nd droid Gonki, the team's forgotten mascot who honestly has a surprising amount of heart, kind of a nostalgic element to him, the Gonk series droid being something foundational to the entire Star Wars franchise. A trusted member of the team who is always helpful, not just as a wait for Wrecker, but sometimes saving the day. Okay, so on to the Batch themselves. My number 1 all-time favourite member of the Batch, and this is taking into account the first 2 seasons of the show, and only 3 in the 3rd season, is Wrecker. He's the big kid, Omega's big brother, who is surprisingly wholesome, and also something I loved in the 2nd episode of Season 3, Paths Unknown, is that when he's under pressure, it's not just muscles that he provides, but also tactical prowess, perspicaciousness, and as I mentioned in my full episode breakdown, he warns Hunter out of a sense of loss and despair for what happened to Tech, to not jump into situations. So I really love the character development he's undergone. As a one-man army goes, he's certainly effective any day of the week. He often gets a lot of flack for his lack of intellect, but as Season 3 is showing us, sometimes he might surprise you. Now in second place, it's a tie between Omega and Crosshair, the latter kind of taking precedent in my mind as we go into Season 3. I love the structure. They've already broken out of Tantiss, at least for the time being, and Crosshair is certainly on the path to redemption. He's seen the light, and it was Omega's compassion, her belief in Crosshair, the fact she was able to make him open up and make him realize that he too is her brother, whether he likes it or not. Omega considers him a brother just the same as Hunter, Echo, and the other members of the batch as well. And Crosshair internalized that. So when the opportunity arose for Crosshair to be that bigger brother, and the two worked on a plan that Tech had devised, we really started to see a redemption. He called his sister by her first name for the first time. A small detail worth mentioning is he even set his blaster to stun to ensure he didn't kill Emery Carr, who Omega insisted is a clone. Even if she's working for the bad guys, as Omega said, maybe you don't trust enough. And I think Crosshair internalized that. So at the moment, Crosshair's kind of breaking through to my second top spot, and Omega is third. But I do love Omega's character development too. She has become the heart and soul of the batch, growing up and learning some valuable lessons. She is the reason Crosshair learned the error of his ways. She's helped him grow and change, and he's done the same for her. Whichever way his end comes, I'm loving the satisfying arc we're seeing unfold. My next pick is Hunter. I've got a bad feeling about the way his story's gonna end, but he would do anything for her. Travel the galaxy, put his life at risk, become a mercenary for former enemies, putting himself in the most dangerous, ominous situations. He is truly a father figure. Now my next pick, I've got to put Tech and Echo more or less on the same standing. But with Echo, he and Rex have promised to meet Hunter and Wrecker at the rendezvous point, but at the moment, they're helping other clones, and the next one I think we're going to see them save is Wolf. Now Echo's history stretches back to the very beginning of the Clone Wars series. The Separatists turned him into a cyborg, and he's ultimately freed. His possible death is going to be a very emotional one, given he's been through everything possible you could imagine during the war. Unlike Crosshair, Echo's already undergone his trial of fire. It gave him wisdom and insight, as well as a profound sense of peace. And as for Tech, I've already explained my thoughts on him a million times. A wonderful, soulful character who is often seen unfortunately as quite robotic, very calculated, but as established in Season 2, it doesn't mean he feels any less. I love Tech. Some hope he's not dead. Let's wait and see. But those are my thoughts, guys. What are your rankings for the Bad Batch members? Let me know down below. And if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and why not check out yesterday's video? We had more theories, more speculation, you're gonna love it. But until tomorrow, my dear friends, where we're doing a full preview for episode 4, may the Force be with you, always.